Hard and you aiming for the seven figures. Hear from the experts who know how to deliver success stories, plenty advice. Time for you to rise. REI Tribe, yeah. Real estate agents to investors. All my entrepreneurs, time for you to check this. Johan Direct, he's getting it started, man. From running businesses to digital marketing. Hey, REI Tribe, REI Tribe. Let's go.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to this new episode of the REI Tribe podcast. Today I have a very special guest. I have my good friend, George Munoz. So George is a real estate investor, flipper here in South Florida. He's also running a real estate meetup. And the reason why I'm very glad to have George on this podcast today is because he's been a big inspiration for me as far as, like getting out there and starting a brand, like from, the podcast, social media, real estate meetup and all of that. So man, I'm glad to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks, man. I do really appreciate the invite. It's an honor for me and it's amazing. I mean, we're just gonna keep doing the same thing, talking about real estate, which I love. We can talk about this forever. And
for sure, dude. I mean, that it's actually how I decided to start with this podcast because I was having a lot of conversation like this every day with friends such as yourself, and sometimes I was like, wow, there is some information here that we just exchanged that might benefit to other people. So why don't we just start recording those conversations and just provide some value to as many people as possible.
And you mentioned something that it's very powerful, and we don't realize it until we realize it. So we surround ourselves with these type of people, other investors, with their own particular niche, and every time you talk to them, it's like, man, I never thought about this, and this thing came up and they start doing this thing and whatnot. And that actually happened to me when I first started in real estate. And I was more focused on the disposition side, on the sell side of real estate, just specifically for investment properties. And I became one of the best agents on that firm. And I sold so many deals, but I also met so many investors that in the process, they became my friends and some my mentors. And that actually let me, like with time, think like the same thing that you're thinking, like, wow, I want to create a place in which I can bring these people, average Joe, like you will never guess, average Joe guys that freaking making thousands of dollars on a few properties here, a few property there. And these are people that you will never guess, like a normal contractor, I'm telling you, you will, hey, give me a quote. I want to fix this and that. And you will never guess this guy has like 20 properties or 40 properties down here in South Florida making passive income, and he's just there, and you just think, oh, here's the contractor doing that. And no, these are normal people, average people making it happen.
Absolutely.
And yeah.
Absolutely. It's really something that I can connect with because, I'm always shocked when I go back to France, even though like it's been years for me here in the US, and I kind of forget that. But in France, like people kind of, I don't know if it's part of the culture, but kind of judge you on your appearance. When you go to Paris, you go into a nice restaurant, they're going to look at you, and depending how you dress, they're going to say that the restaurant is full or it's available. And here in the US, it's kind of like the opposite culture. Like you can see someone going into like a high-end restaurant with
flip-flops,
with his fucking slippers on, and no one really cares because the guy like looking almost like an homeless person next door might be like a multi-millionaire, and it's really all about America. That's really this culture here. So yeah, it's great to have everyday people, and I always think that it doesn't matter for how long you've been doing real estate. You can always find some value in any conversation because there's always going to be this one thing that people can share with you that you can implement in your business, and that is really going to be a game changer for you. And it's the same thing for everything. It's the same thing in a book. When you read books on self-development or real estate or whatever it might be, you're not looking to absorb completely the entire book. you're looking for this one thing, this one golden nugget that you're going to implement in your life, and that is going to be a really a game
Wow,
changer. So
that's a very good. I've never seen that way. Yeah, you're actually You're not looking for the whole nest. You're looking for that one golden nugget that is gonna change. That's gonna
for
change
sure,
your point of
man.
view. Yeah.
For sure. So, man, can you tell us a little bit more about how you got started in real estate? Because you're from Dominican Republic. Like, how did you end up here in South Florida doing real estate? Talk to us about this journey.
So yeah, I don't know. I think like some way somehow I was meant to be like in the real estate arena, even though life will say otherwise. So I always thought I was gonna be more like involved in the entertainment business because my father is a TV producer, and since I was little, he will put me in TV commercials. I went to I was in a couple in DR, so people like will
I
recognize me.
want to see the footage. I want
I'll
to see
send
the
it to you.
footage.
So it was pretty interesting. I always thought I was gonna be like on that arena, and he really empowered me to do so, to be there. And I always felt like I always was very outgoing, and so I didn't care like being in front of cameras and all that stuff. So then times goes by, and then I'm an adult, and and then I see my mom. She opens a real estate magazine, still in the communication arena, entertainment, and that caught my attention. And then my first job. Now I'm an adult, and I kind of like want to stay away from what my dad is. That rebel, you being rebel. You don't want to do what your parents do. And I started working for a bank in the marketing department, but in the mortgage department. I was doing marketing for the mortgage department. So I was doing billboard. I didn't know. I don't know. It's so weird. But that was one of my first job. I didn't know the magnitude of what I was doing. But now that I was creating like billboards and advertising and all that stuff, like creating content for expos, people will come to the R just to see like what developments and all that stuff. And that was pretty interesting. We were offering mortgages. So cool. Then I came here to the United States. I was like 24. I used to live here in the United States when I was a teenager. Then I went back to DR and then came back. And at 24, I came. And then my first job here was at a financial company because they just see your curriculum, your resume. They see like, oh, he works for a mortgage I don't know, a bank. And I'm like, I didn't care. I started like a fire clerk. And this financial corporation grew so drastically in the mid around the crisis, mortgage crisis. And it was one of the biggest firm in United States. They started buying like all these mortgages, foreclosed mortgages, et cetera. And then I became a loan modification agent in a matter of like months. 3 months, 2 months, and I don't know. I was still in the same industry, some way. So I don't know. I wasn't even looking for it. I was just looking for a job, and I wanted to be like in the marketing department because I saw that way. Like I'm still creative, but I don't want to do what my parents do. But I want to do something different. But yeah, long story short, I got fed up because he was in a cubicle. I was going nuts. I was going crazy. So I left. And then that's when I started thinking, and that's when I read the book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. And then, like everybody in this industry.
Isn't it insane,
Yeah.
dude? Like how many people this one single book influenced? How many people like decided to make big like life changing moves after reading
Rich Dad
Rich
Poor
Dad
Dad,
Poor
yeah.
Dad? Yeah.
So, I mean, that book like revolutionized my mind. And then I was like, you know what? In the meantime, I want to do something that I can feel okay, whatever. What am I? Oh, I'm very creative. I like to talk to people, and I like things to do, like in the house. Like I want to be involved with that. So, boom, I became a Italian kitchen designer, luxury.
Oh wow.
So I became a
Yeah,
designer
yeah. So dude, explain to me how you became Italian though.
because I don't know, it was fancy, and I don't know, it was more, I like it. It was something that I didn't have to be there, and like it was like a lot of manual stuff. It was more like designing. It was more like the story of like how do you project like the house? Because the thing is that I quit the other job with no plan.
Oh
So
wow.
that meant for me that I'm stuck in the house watching HGTV all the time. So they're like, I don't know, I can see myself doing that, you know? So it was like more like
It all seems very easy when you watch
when
it
you
on
watch it,
TV.
and I'm like, how can I learn this? And then at that point, bro, I got like 3 jobs. So I found, I became a designer for a closet company, and they taught me how to design by hand. And then I'm like, okay, now I need like a software. And then I got a second job, and I was working at a garage designing company. And then they taught me another software. They taught me actually a software. And I'm like, man, because the classic company, they're teaching me how to do it with manually. I think that's so outdated. Might as well let me just do it digitally in front of them, just like HGTV. And then with what they taught me with that software, I learned how to do it. And then I was doing the closet with that. And then I had got a job. Can we say names? Because I'm like, I got a job at Home Depot in the kitchen department. So
Yeah, that's
so I'm
fine. No
like,
worries.
okay, now I know the software, but I got the experience. And then in like 6 months, I found this company that does kitchen, like the Italian kitchen. I'm like, well, perfect, and they hired me. Cool. So that I got very submerged. So cool. Then reached that for that. I never forgot about it. So like, I really want to get into it. And I started dealing with more investors, architects, and I'm like, man, I want to be on the other side of the business. How do I do this? And then I heard like, oh, Robert Kiyosaki is going to be in Miami. And I'm like, oh my God, Robert Kiyosaki here? You know, and you go to these events, and then you realize it's not Robert Kiyosaki. They're just trying to upsell you for a course. I paid it. It was like a 3 day course. I paid like $500. And then on the 3 day course, it's like a pitch for like a $30,000 course. There's nothing wrong.
It's
There's
it's
nothing.
always the same. It's always the same thing. I've been to like hundreds of those conferences, and it's always the same thing. It
It's a
starts
funnel.
on a 3 day. The first 1 day and a half, usually they provide value. They bring you like good speaker that provide value, and then gradually the sales pitch start to increase. And at the end, on the last day, it's usually insane. That's where they close the door and they put like the booth at the end, and like you need to sign
And they start a
mentorship
club when
program.
somebody signs. Ah, congratulations to this person, like peer pressure. But I mean, there's nothing wrong. I understand the power of leverage, and if you have the money and you have already some knowledge that you know that and the motivation to actually do it, you can do it. But obviously, at that time,
It's a
I was.
shortcut. It's a shortcut on
It's a
life. I
shortcut.
think yeah,
Yeah.
you can learn it on your own. That's definitely the way that I took, YouTube University.
YouTube.
But what took me several years to get here would probably
Take like
have taken me like
months.
a few months. Yeah, if I had a pay to
Yeah.
learn for sure.
So I mean, at that time, I was broke, and bro, I mean, I'm like, how am I gonna do this? So it's one thing that they really taught me was like how to use credit. But something very ironically happened. I got the credit. I was about to purchase
Who told you that? Who
the
told you
people from
that? Was it the bank or Kiyosaki who told you
Kiyosaki.
to get a credit card?
Kiyosaki.
Oh, okay.
So they were like, oh, if you don't have any money, oh, we're gonna teach you how to get money so that you can buy the course. And I'm like, oh, okay. So because I really wanted to do it, but one out of all the things that they taught, one thing stuck, and it was the wholesale concept, how to wholesale real estate. And I'm like, I think I can do this, and I really want to do this because I think I can do this. And then I purchased the course, right? But you had a time to cancel, right? And then the first lesson was they said something very ironic. They told me, look, for the first 2 weeks, we're not going to talk about real estate. Why? Because right now you think like a poor dad. And if somebody hearing this, if you like, you have to read the book so you understand what's the poor dad and rich dad mentality. So you're thinking like a poor dad mentality. We need to get you to think like a rich dad mentality. Otherwise, none of this is gonna make sense, and you're not gonna be able to make this happen. And I was like, let me be true to myself. And I started thinking, I'm like, you know what? He's right. And to be honest, I don't think it's gonna take me 2 weeks. I'm really thinking like I'm a poor dad. And what I did, I canceled the course, and then I'm like, I'm gonna try to look for this wholesaling thing by myself. And I'm telling you, back in 2013, 2014, there was not much information like today in the internet, and it's not that long ago if you think about it. And I was trying to look, I couldn't find it. Everything that I will find is like, oh, that's a scam. That's what is this? So then I found this guy on Instagram, and he'll have a book. It's called Flip by Nick Ruiz. It's very on point on wholesaling, and I'm like, man, I'm gonna follow this guy, and it's like $20. What can I lose? So I did that, and along with that, I started following Ty Lopez. Some people hate him, some people love him. I love him because he really changed my poor dad mentality. Because everything that he was teaching on that particular course was like, how do you change your old habits to new habits and become a person that is constantly bettering themselves, knowing, like, exposing themselves to new information that is going to make you better. And then, like, leaders are readers basically. And I'm like, man, yeah, I don't have this habit. And then through a course that he sells, I'm reading it, and I developed that. So I'm gonna tell you, like, I thought, so on that course, they will tell you in 2 weeks you're gonna change, you're gonna be like think like a rich dad. That process took me 2 years, man. Because in those 2 years, I was trying to apply everything that I learned from that older wholesale book that I found on Instagram, and I did it. But it wasn't the same because you don't know what you don't know. I was by myself. I didn't have any tools, community, and I got stuck. I kept doing kitchens, and I'm like, you know what? I took like a little hiatus, and I kept learning until it got to a point that I'm like, man, I'm tired. I'm just tired of like the same thing. And I'm not even kidding. For like 2 weeks, I kept waking up and thinking of the phrase insanity. Like, the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and
Just to do
over
the same
and
thing.
expect different results. And I'm like, I'm doing the same thing. I'm doing the same thing. And I need to do something. And then it's weird. So in those 2 years that I kind of like took a hiatus, but I was trying to do something, I met um, I met somebody that worked from this wholesaling big firm, and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna reach out to the guy, and I say to one of those guys, hey, dude, do you think that your company's hiring people? Oh yeah, yeah, blah, blah, blah. Okay, send your resume here. And I'm gonna do it. Poof, and I send it to them, just to see what's up. They call me, they like me, and I'm like, okay, cool. I mean, I think you're hired, man. Like, you seem like you kind of like know what's up with the game, like it's not, you don't have to start from scratch. And I kept thinking, like, you know what? I want to leverage from a company instead of me doing it by myself. Because I heard this from Grant Cardone, and at that time, because I was reading and hearing and looking at these people and the other people, and Grant Cardone's always said, like, if you're gonna go to a big company, like, try to see if they are investing in their people and in marketing. And if you're a salesman, people and marketing, people and men. And I was like looking for that, and I looked, and I saw they were investing in people, and then we're investing in marketing. But not only that, what was their conversion rate versus of what they spend? And I think that's why that's what caught their attention, because like, who asked these questions? So the guy hired me, but I told him, like, wait, now I need to convince my wife. Just
That was the difficult part.
let me convince my wife that now we have a kid, a newborn, and I'm gonna leave my salary and be commission only. So they helped me come up with some arguments, and I mean, nothing out of the ordinary. And then, but my wife, she was pissed. And that was a pivotal point for me, because it was like almost like an ultimatum. And I understand because sometimes you're trying, man, and you're trying, but in that trying process, you forget that there's other people around you that you want to meet some needs. And I was very focused on what I was trying to do, and I understood, what, she's right. I'm just gonna go ahead, and I told her, look, just give me 2 months. And luckily that was inspiration for me and boost. So I was able to do that and do it in a matter of like 2 months. When I saw my check, it was like, man, this is like the equivalent of like an entire year for me. So yeah, that's where the story began.
Do you think that's the main reason why you've been able to, get some commission right away? It's because your back was kind of like against the wall, and it was like, hey, I can't fail. Like, I don't have any other choice than
It was
to succeed.
no honest. Yeah, I could argue that maybe yes, that was like that was a component. But honestly, I was already convinced. In my mind, I was already convinced because I remember one of the first questions that it was like certainty. It was certainty that I knew that I was going to succeed. And it was because I asked the guy like, hey, so can you tell me the fastest guy in your company that have been able to produce in the less time possible? What was the time frame? And the guy said like, oh, 2 months. And then the secretary next to him like looked at him, no. And then, hey, what happened? What happened? He goes, no, I don't think. And she goes like, no, George, I'm so sorry. I don't think that's realistic. The average guy here is like between 3 to 6 months, 3 to 6 months. And I'm like, no, 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 no.
Sure.
But is it true? Yes or no? And then he goes like, yeah, 2 months. For real, for real. Who was it? Oh, this guy, whatever. 2 months. He did it in 2 months. And I'm like, in my mind, like, okay, so I'll do it in 2 months. So in my mind, it was like, no, if he did it, why can't I? So that was like I don't know, it was like a psychological thing. In my mind, it's like, if somebody did it in 2 months, I can do it in 2 months. So I was certain.
That's funny how it works though. Like in those sales commission only kind of position, the hiring department is always showing you who's the best guy on the floor, what is the ultimate salary that you can get at the top of your career. They don't tell you like the whole picture that it might take time to get there. It might take like a few months to really master your craft.
It does. I mean, it does take time. It does. But, sometimes you might have some experience. Or like mine, like, but also in my mind, like, it wasn't like I didn't have any sales experience or not. Like, even though I was a kitchen designer, I had to sell. Like, I had to prepare the whole presentation, and then I had to do a presentation and sell them that my product. Because, dude, I'm no offense, but people were comparing kitchens from Hialeah to the Italian, and I have to tell them, look, it's not the same. Because they were like, oh my god, but this costs 3 times lower of what you're offering me, and I'm like, I know, but this is what you get, So it wasn't that I wasn't on sale, so I knew what it take to do that. The only difference is like I had no reliability on any salary, so it was like 100% up to me. And yeah, and in my mind, it's like I think I heard this the other day. I never read this book, but I heard it. Somebody mentioned this, and they were mentioning on the book "The Art of the Deal" by Donald Trump.
Mm-hmm.
It says, "Don't negotiate unless you're prepared to walk away. Do not negotiate until you're prepared to walk away." So in my mind, I was like, I will translate it like I'm not gonna negotiate my position in life right now until I'm prepared to assume the responsibility of my actions. So I was already ready to assume any responsibility of any actions that I needed to obtain to change my life at that particular point. So I knew it was going to be a pivotal point. Either I give it my all or nothing. So I did it, became one of the best agents in the company, and then I worked for a few years, and I then decided, you know what, I'm just prepared to a change. I did it 2 weeks before COVID. So,
oh my god!
So
great timing.
It changed everything. But the cool thing that throughout that time I was able to meet amazing people, great investors. Like I said early on in this podcast, people that became my friends, people that became mentors, and they were there. They helped me out. They get me. We partnered up in some deals that helped me in that process. And then I met another firm in which I'm still part of it, and which I feel very grateful. And that's it. I have a little bit of a freedom of like doing deals that I want to do, flips that I want to do. If I see a property that I want to be part of, I can do so. that's for me, like, that's the biggest thing.
That's a big part for you, like in like working with any company that you would work
Yeah,
with.
like, because
You
that was
don't
the
want to be stuck in this cubicle position that you were in
I want to be
when
able
you
to
were
feel
working
free,
at the
man.
bank.
Because that was the thing with the other company. That's actually what I left because they were limiting, like, oh, you only can do one flip a year. I couldn't partner with any investors that I was like talking with. I didn't have any like support. So when I did that shift, and I noticed like they were giving me, this other company was giving me that freedom. I'm like, man, this is great. And honestly, it made me more loyal to them because they don't have the need to support me. They don't have the need even to support me in, like, to let me do the things that I'm doing. Like, I'm doing my events, and that keeps me going, and I feel like I'm being part of something or creating something that I think it's intrinsically in any man, the power of creating something that you can contribute to your community, and I think that's very powerful.
Absolutely, man. So thank you for sharing that. Can you tell me a bit more, because I understand your journey, obviously, like from starting, and you have a very atypical journey, because most of the people I speak to, usually they get into real estate through, working as a real estate agent first, and then gradually they move into flipping and wholesaling. On your side, like, it was completely different. Like, you're starting in the financial world, in a bank, and then you transition step by step into a sales position to then get right out of the gate in wholesaling. Like, you haven't like been an agent in a traditional brokerage or flip properties or anything like that before
Yeah, that
starting to work as a wholesaler. So it's something very atypical.
that
Yeah.
and you know what, you're right. But and on that first company that I started, they made you get your real estate license, but I never used it.
Okay.
I never used it. So when I left and I started working with this other firm that we were like a little bit more versatile, I started learning the world of real estate agency, because now I'm negotiating from one realtor to another realtor, and I started noticing, like, oh man, 100%, I just rather do wholesaling all day long.
Oh, for
That is
sure.
so. But the cool thing too is, like, now I'm more creative and more flexible, because I realize, like, okay, even in the negotiation process, okay, we understand we cannot provide you, I mean, this price, cash price, XYZ. Maybe you owe too much on your mortgage, though, but you still want to sell your house. I think we could sell your house in the market. So now I can list it, and I can work as an agent. I can help. I can still help the seller to sell their home. So I'm in that position, and also it helps me as a flipper to list my own property.
Yeah. Of course, and I think it's a big thing now, like more and more people transition to getting licensed now for two main reasons. First of all, I think because, of gurus and YouTube and everything, wholesaling as an industry is becoming more and more popular, which means that with all those eyes on wholesaling now, it's going to get regulated at some
Yeah.
point. So even the people that don't want to be licensed, because as of now, you don't have to, they will eventually have to get licensed at some point. So I think everybody should do it. And then the second thing is, when you invest in marketing, and you have this like a recurring cost of marketing in your business, because at the end of the day, wholesaling business is marketing.
It's
and
marketing,
sales.
bro. Yeah.
So if you're investing massively in your marketing every month, you should be able to monetize on any deal that comes through your pipeline. And it always pisses me off when I see people, just doing those 50 cents on the dollar cash offer, because you're missing on so much opportunities, and there is a cost to this loss of opportunity. So I think being able to, list the property as an agent, or do innovation, do creative financing, is definitely something that is interesting. And I think more and more people are going to do that in the coming years.
Yeah, I do agree. I do see the same thing. So sometimes you miss some opportunities, just trying to get that particular price, but it's competitive, It's very competitive out there. Sadly, it's so, right now, because there's so much people teaching how to wholesale, how to do this. There's a lot of new people in the market that they want to make it happen. There's nothing wrong, And because they want to make it happen, now they're giving these loose offers. And then something that it's like, it's so out of range, even for the seller, that it doesn't even make any sense. And then how do you tell the seller, like, oh, after somebody told them, hey, your house might worth this and that, and I'm like, they cannot forget about that number that they heard from this other guy, and then this other guy it lock you up. Like, okay, so you know what? It's not a matter of, ultimately what I understood from wholesaling. It's not even about the wholesale process. It's honestly, if you go with your whole heart and you really try to help the other person on the other side, trying to find like the best solution that they can, that's what it is. And then automatically it will come. But if you become like a problem finder, that's where you succeed. Instead of you look for the deal. If you look for the deal, that's where you're not gonna become relevant in this market. If you find for the issue, for that problem, that's where you're gonna become more successful. And not only that, you have to be forced to become more skillful in this market and adaptable. So
No, absolutely.
yeah,
We're in the problem solving business. No one is going to sell you their house at, a discount and give up some equity if you're not solving a problem. So I think that's one of the main things that I notice, when some people sometimes tell me, oh, I don't understand. I'm having those conversations every day and I'm not closing any deal. And then I go into their CRM and I listen to a few call recording and I see that they're just like throwing offers, throwing offers after offers after offers. But at no point in the conversation did they ask the right question. Did they really dig to understand the pain point of the seller and what is their true motivation in selling this property? And sometimes it can be a lot of different things, Sometimes you need to get them to speak. Sometimes it can be something more complicated, like title issues or probate situation that, you as a real estate professional needs to be able to solve. So we're really problem solver, and that's really where you can really unlock this value.
yep.
Yeah. So can you tell me a little bit, man, about your your different activities to this day? Because you told us that, the reason why you love being in the company that you're currently at is because they give you the freedom to do your own stuff on the side. So can you tell us a bit more? So just to refocus the conversation a little bit, the company that you work for is a wholesaling company. So your main focus right now is wholesaling. But what other activities do you do on the side?
Yeah. So the main focus of this company, even though they're a well-established real estate firm in South Florida, they have their own thing inside. But the part where I'm at is more focused on wholesaling. So we're wholesaling throughout Florida, and that's it. We do acquisition, we do disposition, and that's it. So
Okay.
and then
And
aside,
so how about you on your? How about you? I want to know
So
what George personally does on the side when you're not, wearing your.
your wholesaling. So what I do, I typically I flip. So in the past few years, I've been flipping quite a few houses. Typically, I'm doing it with partnerships, just to leverage out my time and the money. That way, I'm able to acquire more deals at the same time. Because
How do you find those deals?
honest, dude, it's through us, through the same
Okay.
funnel.
So this company that you work for, they basically do a lot of marketing. So they're getting
They're getting a lot
motivated
of
seller
inventory.
leads.
Yeah.
And so from there, because you're part of this company, you have the possibility to cherry pick the deal that you really love, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Sometimes it's not even cherry pick. So far, the ones that I've actually decided to purchase, I wasn't even cherry picking. Honest, it was the deal that an investor didn't want to. I'm not even joking. And I can tell like a handful of those deals, no, we couldn't sell it. We couldn't dispose the deal. And I'm like, dude, but you can do something. I mean, you really can do something with this deal. But it wasn't. I don't know. To be honest, not. I'm gonna say it like it is. Investor nowadays, they're not creative. they are just not creative enough. They're just thinking black and white, and they want deals that they don't have to do anything. Like, oh no, but I just show them a deal, and I'm, dude, we sell distressed home. That's what we do, and you buy distressed home so that you can fix it, put the money, and then resell. And then, yeah, but it's still a lot of work, dude. And I understand. Yes, if you don't want to be stuck on a deal for a long time, but this is what we do. Don't tell me, oh, it's a lot of work, because it's a lot of work for me, and I do this. This is my full time. I wholesale and I manage. I deal with the company, and it's a lot of, like, it's too many hats to wear. And sometimes I've been doing 3 flips at the same time. So, but if you're able to master how you delegate, if you delegate, you elevate. I'm gonna quote. I heard it from my friend Alan Demise.
Okay, that's actually that's a very good quote. So talking about delegation, like how do you handle all of that? Because we haven't talked about that yet, but you still have your own brand on the side, so you're doing like real estate meetup and all of that. So how do you manage all these things at the same time? Like how are you able to work full time in a company, manage team members in this company, doing wholesale deals, doing flips? I understand that it comes to delegation, but how did you structure all of that? Like, do you have like reliable people in all those areas to help you out, basically?
So I came to realize that I'm not perfect. I still struggle with that, because but I force myself. I try to hack myself into forcing myself to actually do that by not picking deals near me. Because if it's near me, I always gonna feel forced to go there. Let me go there. Let me like, but I always have to struggle and just hold myself and not be there. I still want to kind of like be there. I'll travel, but I haven't done any out of state. But I've done flips in Tampa, St. Petersburg, Polk County, like those areas, and it forces me not to be there like all the time and depend on the people that are there. So first of all, I'm very lucky that the guys that I've been working with, they're being very loyal to me. So, and it gets to a point that when the first time that I realized, like, oh my gosh, I can make this happen. I can buy in other counties. It was when I told one of my workers, after we did a couple down here, like, hey man, hey, I'm so sorry, but I have a flip in this county, and I was wondering if you know somebody that could help me, because you guys are here, and they're gonna, no, what are you talking about? And I'm like, whoa, what? No, where is it? And I'm like, oh, it's in this county. It's like 4 hours away from here. No, we'll go there. And I'm, for real? You go there? Yeah, we go there, we stay there, blah blah blah. Are you sure? Yeah. And I'm like, okay. So they'll go there and stay. They will sleep. They will bring their barbecue if there's no kitchen or whatever. They'll do whatever, and for me that's been extremely helpful. I know not everybody has it, but I think it's the way you treat people more than the money, believe it or not, because a lot of people think like, oh, these contractors are not charging too much, blah blah blah. Yes, it's money, but also it's a combination of how do you treat the person, and if you pay them fairly to what they're doing. And you assume also responsibility of their actions, because sometimes they're human. They will screw it up. But it's like the book Jocko Willing's Extreme Ownership. Extreme Ownership. If you haven't heard this book, ultimately, dude, that book is great. If you haven't read this book, forever, whoever is listening, it's like basically, if you're in a leadership position, everything is your fault. Everything is your fault. Even though if it was like clearly the fault of the other person, it's your fault because you as a leader did not cut it up before it actually happened. So what happens? You will think like, oh, they're going to undersee you or diminish you because you took responsibility for them or whatever. No, actually they'll respect you more, because even though they knew that they screw up, and they know it, you don't have to tell that to them. They know that they can count on you to step up. and then they'll see you as a leader. And 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 I didn't realize that until you start seeing those things. And I will not make them like, I will not diminish them or like, oh my God, you're so stupid. Because sometimes you get like, common sense things like, dude, like, don't, like, yeah, like I can't even think of some, but weird stuff that that, man, that's common sense. You don't actually do that. But I don't say that.
Oh, I have a good one for you that happened to me recently. It's like I go to a house and then they were repainting the entire house, and then I look at it, and the guy was very proud to show me his work, and I'm like, dude, why did you paint the light switch? Like literally the brand new light switch. A guy painted everything. And I'm like, it seemed to be common sense, but like some people don't have the same.
They don't. And some people, you have to understand, they come from a very rural, hardcore rural place in somewhere in Latin America, and they come here, yeah, but in their, you have to think like they work with what they have in their hands, and sometimes they come with those habits here, and they just think, oh, you just do this, blah blah blah, and that's it. And then you have to explain them like, look, I understand.
It's exactly what it is. You need to be the one. You need to be the one explaining as a leader. You need to be able to put the proper guideline in place. And it always remind me of back in the day when I studied in real estate. I was very young, 18 years old, back in the day in France. And one of my first real estate development, I had a crew of Moroccan workers back then. And I remember going to this job site and looking at the drywall that we just pulled off. It was a brand new house that we were building. And the wall was, instead of being straight, the wall was literally like this. And I look at this wall and I tell the guy that was doing the drywall, like, what the heck happened there? Like, why is my wall not straight? And the guy just couldn't understand why I was mad, because it was like, why do you complain? Like, there is drywall, the wall is standing, there is paint on it, it's finished. Like, he didn't understood, because for him, like, he was coming from Morocco, and for him there, like, the details and the finishes were not the same standard as we had in the south of France. So it's just sometimes you have to kind of like take a step back and understand. And so that's why now we do very detailed scope of work. With picture of the finishes and the materials and everything that we expect. Because once again, it's on you. Like, if they mess up on one of those things, it's on you as a leader. So,
and you know what? I'm sorry.
No. I just wanted to say that I totally relate with what you're saying.
And it's a matter of like, you as a leader, understanding that you're not there to change their mind. Because we waste time trying to change them. Like, how can you have to think every time, like, and rely on them. It's like you said, like, now every scope of work is the same. This is the expectation, but this is my expectation that you have to meet. And it's going to be here. It's clear. And and I think since then, my wife and I were super clear. Before, she would say, oh, buy this, buy that in the store. And I will come up with something totally different. And like, but I told you why, like, it's common sense. You should know. And now she doesn't waste time on that. She's like, okay, I need you to buy this. I send you a screenshot of the actual brand and product, and it costs this amount. And we don't have any issues. And now you have to think about it. So, so I think
that's funny. I heard this saying a long time ago, and I find that very interesting. Is because we have this tendency as human beings to want to change other people. Change the way we think, change the way we act. But then this saying was that basically it already takes so much time, focus, and energy to change yourself in your self-development journey. So imagine going to change a third person. It's almost impossible.
Dude, that's a great point.
Instead of trying to change someone else, just focus already on yourself. And then to relate to what we're saying, I think you can put the proper expectations, set the proper expectation, and the proper guidelines for them to deliver on whatever you ask them.
So I mean, yes, to make that story short, with that, it's like that helped me, and those are the finishers that they take pretty much overall like 80% of the job, and then I was able to segment everything. So it helps me to delegate accordingly. So luckily, the electrical guy was on board too. The plumbing guy was on board too, and the AC guy was on board too. They didn't care drive like 4 hours or whatever to do that. So I'm like, whoa, and 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 for me, it's better to separate. I don't want a know-it-all guy that does all the job. Why? Because it's hard for me to manage the budget, and it's hard for me to hold them responsible or accountable on a specific type one thing, you know. And then also plumbing is very important, electrical is very important, AC is very important. Okay, so with that, it just helps me understand also that particular arena, like be a plumbing guy. And then I kind of like, no, okay, I know the plumbing guy, he's not going to overcharge me more than this because we've done it so many times. That's it, and that's what it is. And then I'm going to be fair. If he's going to go there, I'll pay him. Look, I'll pay you for lunch, and then I know that he's not going to stay there at the place. Well, I'll pay you for staying in the place nearby. So that has helped me drastically. And again, I'm still not perfect. And the biggest thing, I guess, that has helped me a lot is technology. So I ordered a bunch of things online, and it's dropped in the house, and that's it. It's dropped. Everything is dropped, and they manage. So.
Yeah, but this can only happen because of this trust that you build with your contractors there. Because someone that would just like get started right out of the gate with not the right connection, they would send the materials and probably like half of it would get stolen would like disappear or something. So it's because you build this relationship with your workers and because of the way you treat them, that you've been able to accomplish all of that. And it's interesting. We had so many conversations, you and me, but I never knew that, it was actually your crew from South Florida that you sent to different parts of the States. And that's funny because when I actually got started back in the day in Detroit in Michigan, from living here in South Florida and doing deals here before in South Florida, I actually struggled on the first few deals that I did in the Midwest because I didn't have the right connection. I had the project manager there, but it was kind of like difficult at the beginning to find reliable crews. And I actually had a crew that I was having for deals here in Florida that actually moved to Michigan, but this time they really packed, like the entire family moved to Michigan and lived in a house there and was working on different construction, but there are actually a crew from Florida that moved to Michigan.
Yeah. Wow, yeah. I think one of the biggest thing too is that when you become a real estate investor, it's like your status grows, and I think it's like a facade that a lot of people, it's like a goal to reach. My first deal, my first, and I think that's something that you have to, it's the real estate investment arena. It's put on such a high pedestal that a lot of people think like, oh my God, it's like that's the goal, reach out. And it's cool. It's good to reach out for a goal, but I think that once they reach that, they feel like, and they start acting that way with contractors and property manager and think, we all done it. I sometimes I have to check myself, like, it's like, but honestly, what I try to really do with these guys is like, I'm like a normal guy, man. I'm a normal guy, and like, if you wanna have a beer, we have a beer. I don't mind eating with them, and you don't know. This is stupid, Jan, and I hope some people can understand this, but you don't know how much it means for them, for somebody that is like their boss, el jefe, like we eat with them, just eat like normal, like, I don't know, I'm gonna bring food and we're all gonna eat at the same time on the floor with them at the job site. I would drink a beer. For them, that's like, it's like the simplest thing, but you have to understand, most of these people lived like working, being a worker, and they had have you seen the movie Minion with the kids? The Minions?
Yeah.
I think in one of those movies, the Minions didn't have Gru, or they were trying to find somebody like Gru, like a leader, like a boss.
Like a leader.
Yeah. And you can see people, they jump to the, I'm not even joking, but some of these people, they come and that's their whole goal. They want to find a patron. un patrón. Have you heard that word?
So,
They want to find the jefe.
so, so I think that must be like the big takeaway of this podcast is that George here identify as guru.
No. So it's no.
It's 2023, man. You can really
I identify as a guru. Yeah. So
all right. Well, that's very interesting. So, man, we just have about like 10 minutes left on the podcast. So I like to talk a little bit about your real estate meetup, because that's something that I think is really really interesting, and that's something once again that got me inspired, because when we met, you invited me actually as a speaker on one of your meetup, and that's something that kind of like opened my mind a little bit, because prior to doing that, I've been on a few podcasts here in the US, but most of my, public speaking gigs, I've been mostly in Europe back in the day. So it's not really something that I was used to, and I really enjoy, providing value to the audience. So I have to thank you for that, man. Like everything that I'm doing today, and this podcast, and we're actually going to start our own meetup here in Boca next month. And all of that is in part because of you, because you really inspired me to, go on this journey. So thank you for that. And yeah, tell us a little bit more about your meetup.
Yeah, man. So the meetup started because of going back to the original stories. When I started, there was not much information out there, and honestly, every time that I would go to an event, they would try to pitch me something, and I was broke. So I'm like, man, like how can you go through this? So basically, I have to pay my way through the whole real estate world. And then I wanted to provide a place that people feel comfortable, that they will not feel that they're going to be pitched at something that you're going to learn. And then, like we were mentioning at the beginning, you start meeting these people, and they're not like they're not like Grant Cardone. They're not, because you see them again in this pedestal, like, oh my God, real estate. No, now you're meeting the normal guy. I'm an approachable person. I've done a few deals there and that, and you realize like, oh my God, it could be possible. If he did it, I can do it too. And then you start talking, and then you meet someone else, and then that other person, they have the money, but then maybe you have the time. And then because they have the money, they don't have the time, and then you're available and you're finding the deals. Something happens, and now you're partnering, and then you're doing a house together. And that's how things starts. That's how things starts. And I think after I did one, and then two, and then that's something that really it's a passion of mine, just to see that growth in the community and seeing this story. You will never guess, man. I have people sending me voice message. I'm not joking. Voice message like, George, you don't know. Thank you so much. Through your event, I was able to do this, or through that, or blah blah blah. People making deals. People like last time we did one, and then they were joking. People were joking, and in the middle of like the speaking engagement, and they're like, oh yeah, because this person bought this deal from this other person, and one person made $40,000, and the other one made like $60,000, and then and I'm like, what? So I don't know, it's impressive, and that's it. And I hope it keeps growing. I want to grow it more, but I want to make it bigger, and I also want to grow more as a person. I want to grow more as a person. I want to do more for the community, and hopefully I can impact more people in the Latin American community.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to that. And, it's interesting because I sometimes still receive some phone calls from people that were at this meetup that was last year, I believe. So it's really like, I think when you do like this kind of content, events, podcasts, social media, whatever it is, and you provide value to people, the interesting thing is that it stays there, it stays online, it stays in people's mind. And so it's something that, is infinite of some sort, so this podcast that we're recording together today, we're going to publish it online. 10 years from now, it's still going to be online. We're going to watch this podcast in 10 years, and we're going to probably laugh at us because we will be a totally different position in our life. how many people would have watched this and would have picked up, some small piece of information, maybe something that you shared today is going to be just the right thing that someone needed to hear to, just be like, oh, you know what? If George did it, I'm going to do it too. I'm going to get started. Maybe there's a guy working in selling kitchen right now who's going to get inspired by what you say. So that's really interesting. And it's funny because you said earlier that they put like being a real estate investor on this kind of pedestal, and it's true that for someone trying to get started, it might seem like a huge step to do this first deal. But once you do this first one, there's another one and another one and another one. And we've all been in this position. And then one day you realize once you did a few hundred deals, I think so far, last time we counted between wholesaling and flipping, I've done in the last 15 years of my career, I've done a little bit over 400 deals. You just start counting because it's just numbers piling up. For sure the money is great, but you're not really, it doesn't bring you any joy or any, excitement anymore. Now, going out there and like providing value, sharing value with the audience at your meetup or on a podcast or whatever it is, I find that very fulfilling when you have someone coming back to you and being like, oh, dude, thank you so much for sharing that. It allowed me to do my first deal and to get this check. I find that very it's a rush of adrenaline. I don't know to explain that.
Yeah, it's very fulfilling, and even it encourages you to actually do more deals. Dude, yeah, I mean I think that's like the best part, and then not even that, it's like the realization of, man, this could be like way bigger than just like if that happened with one person, imagine if it can happen with a lot of people. And I think you just like reestablish in my mind that I do want to impact more the people that they're like right there, they're struggling, they try to make it. I just want to inspire them to go just a little bit further. And honestly, it doesn't really have to do like be real estate per se, because yeah, real estate is one avenue for you to become wealthy. I just think it's the best, but it's just for you to strive to do something, and just become better at what you're doing, and just grow, and that's it. Just grow.
It's exactly what you say about Kiyosaki book, like Rich Dad Poor Dad, or his coaching program. That you're saying that the first chapter basically of the program was not about teaching you real estate, stock market, or any avenue. It was really just mindset. First, it starts in the head, and then you can go into doing investment and all of that. But if you don't fix your mindset first, it's not. You're never going to get anywhere.
And again, honestly, let me say this: like, even my events that I still do it, I struggle with that. Because I even like every month I struggle with the same thing. Like, should I actually even do it? Is that even relevant? Is that really even making any difference? Why am I doing this? You start doubting yourself because you feel like, like I don't have a 1,200 portfolio. Now, I'm gonna be there, but you start doubting yourself because you start to compare yourself with the guy that you met 2 years ago in this macro real estate event, that the dude maybe is like younger than you and has like freaking 400 units. And I'm like, man, I don't even have like 10 or anything, So
it's So sorry to cut you off, but yeah, that's exactly what it is. And it's interesting because I've been lucky enough to meet some people that are, very influential in this real estate and wholesaling industry. And I had actually this conversation with a lot of people, and every time it's the same thing. I realized that even the guy that owns 1,000 units of apartment building, even this guy still have this kind of imposter syndrome at the beginning. Even some of these guys are going to tell you, yeah, dude, like the first time I took my phone to record a video and post it online, dude, it sucked. Like I thought that people would laugh at me. I thought that people would, like not listen to me or something. Everybody has the same limiting belief. And I had the same, and I know we share some of them. We already talked about it, but because, we're not born in this country, we have an accent.
Yeah.
We're like, what if people don't understand me? What if this? What if that? And that's why it took me, almost, I want to say I've been talking about doing social media and everything for the last 5 years. And I really took action a month ago. Why? Because I had to break this barrier of the false limiting belief, And so,
and you've been able to accomplish so much. Sorry to interrupt you. Like, we're thinking about real estate, this pedestal, but even the fact of like just mastering social media, it's like another thing. And I'm sorry. Huh?
Yeah, but here's the thing, dude. Like, one thing I think that was kind of like ticked in my mind. Someone told me one day, "Hey, you're not going to talk to Grant Cardone audience. He's at a different stage of his life, and he has a different audience that you're not going to get. Ryan Pineda's audience is not Grant Cardone audience. It's two separate kind of audience. Why? Because you're going to talk to the person you were 2 or 3 years ago.
Ooh.
So it means my audience, because I'm at this stage of my career where I've been doing that for 15 years. I have an audience that is going to be maybe completely different than your audience, and who's going to be totally different than someone else's audience, because you're really talking to someone that is at a stage right below you. So you, for example, in your journey, you might be talking to someone that already did a few flips and is starting to want to scale. Maybe now they're thinking, oh shit, I'm kind of doing 2-3 deals at the same time. How can I do 4-5 at the same time? They're trying to scale. My audience is more wholesaler, because I've been on this journey to scale a wholesaling business to 7 figures. So I have this guy that might be, like doing 7-8 deals a month, and they want to break past the 10 deals a month barrier. So we all have like different audience, and you just need to find, put some information out there, share without, expecting anything in return. And eventually, like, it's going to provide value to someone. That's the only reason why we're doing this.
Yeah, and I think you just mentioned something extremely important, and it's like providing the value, and that's what I was trying to say with like the story of the contractors. The reason why they feel like compelled to come back, call me, and then hey George, it's even when I'm slow, when I don't have any business for them, it's because I've been able to provide so much value. But when I say value, I'm not saying like monetarily, or it's even time or an information that they didn't have, or even a recommendation, expecting nothing. Like, truly, you have to consciously tell yourself, I am not expecting anything from them, because I have been able to refer, and it's like, honestly, it's kind of like a golden rule, and still you have to really think of this before you do it. If you have good, loyal contractors, you have to really think, who are you going to refer them to? Because somebody might try to steal you. That's the bad thing that you have in your head. But honestly, I have been able to refer them, and honestly, I am not expecting it. I'm not having a hidden fee there that I'm gonna, try to charge extra because I refer them to. Not even that. And you know what? They keep coming, and they're loyal because they're there when I need them to be. So, and I think it's the same way online, or if you're in an event, doing an event, like trying to provide the most, you're not competing with anyone. You're competing with yourself, because you want to become better. And that's it. And you're exposing yourself because you want to do it. And by exposing yourself, you're developing things that you're not realizing that you're developing, but it will benefit you in the long run. And that's something that I believe.
Absolutely. I totally agree on that. All right, George. Well, man, we went a little bit over here. So can you just like say for your last word, like if you have any like key piece of advice that you want to share with the audience, and then tell us like where can people find you, like social media, all of that.
Yeah. So, addressing your audience. if you're in real estate, you're starting to think of real estate. In my personal journey, the way I was able to grow as fast as I was able to grow was leveraging from other people. I know some people want to do it like, YouTube University. Not everybody have that discipline or capability. I do think that requires an extreme amount of self-discipline. So kudos for you on that. But I wasn't that disciplined, and I needed to be surrounded by people that was already doing it. So if you're able to surround yourself or find a company that is already doing it, just leverage from them, because they're already doing it, and they're basically going to pay you for you to learn. And then if you learn and you do better, everybody makes money. So that's like a huge shortcut that I can refer and give out to anyone. Actually, as a matter of fact, at that event that I invited you, from that event, we hired a guy that he was talking about doing it by himself, and he was, I don't know, like I want to do it by myself. And we offered, dude, that guy is freaking killing it. It's like the first year, I think, the whole, that was when, like a few months ago?
I think it was last year.
Dude, okay, that
exactly
guy's is six figures or above six figure already. And it's, you could make it by yourself, but dude, you're competing with a lot of wholesaling companies out there. And like John said, it's not about the real estate, it's about mastering the marketing. So if you can do that, if you can master the marketing and then learn on real estate, kudos to you, but it's a lot of components there. So leverage from someone and keep growing, keep self-developing, keep hearing podcasts, books, like develop that habit every day, at least 5 minutes of something related to what you want to learn. And it builds up. It builds up. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, it's a compounding effect. Like these few minutes that you're going to be able to put aside every day to read a book, listen to a podcast, or anything like that. It might seem very little, but compounding over like several months, it's a lot of knowledge that you capture.
Yep, and if you want to find me, you can find me at George Munoz, Munoz. So George, not Jorge, even though I sound and look like a Jorge. It's a George Munoz 1. That's Instagram. And then on Instagram as well, Chill and Real Estate. So you can find me there.
Okay. So Chill and Real Estate is the name of your meetup.
Yeah, it's a meetup. Yeah.
Okay. If people want to, they're here in South Florida and they want to join you in this meetup, how does that work? Do you have like an Eventbrite?
Yeah. So I will post it. I will post it on my social media. I post it on my LinkedIn. You can find me on LinkedIn, George Munoz, as well. And that's all. I guess I should be working on a webpage, I guess. Yeah.
No, I mean, that's pretty good. Social media, it's funny because now, like when you go to a real estate meetup, no one has business card anymore. Everybody just what's your IG, what's your TikTok or stuff like that, and that's pretty much the new business card. So I will add all the link to your social in the description below, so people can find you. Man, thank you so much for being here today. It was a lot of fun. I'm sure we provided a lot of value to the audience, and I'm excited to see what your journey is going to be on the coming years.
Thanks, man. Yep. See you on top.
All right. Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
Hard and you aiming for the 7 figures. Hear from the experts who know how to deliver success stories, plenty advice. Time for you to rise. REI Tribe, yeah. Real estate agents to investors. All my entrepreneurs, time for you to check this. Johan Direct, he's getting it started, man. From running businesses to digital marketing. Hey, REI Tribe. REI Tribe. Let's go.